Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Dana Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Parivrajaka our daughter Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhana ki, Shri Vrindavan Dhama ki, Mayapur Dhama ki, Jagannath Puri Dhama ki, Ganga Maya ki, Yamuna Maya ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Samveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitya Gaura Premanande. All glories to all assembled devotees. All glories to all assembled devotees. All glories to all assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the second canto, first chapter, text 23. Śrī-śuka uvāca, jita-sano, jita-śvāso, jita-saṅgo, jitendriyaḥ, sthūle, bhagavato, rūpe, manaḥ, sandhārayed, dhiyā, śrī-śuka uvāca, jita-sano, jita-śvāso, jita-saṅgo, jitendriyaḥ, sthūle bhagavato rūpe, manaḥ sandhārayed, śrī-śuka uvāca, jita-sano, jita-śvāso, jita-saṅgo, jitendriyaḥ, sthūle bhagavato rūpe, manaḥ sandhārayed, śrī-śuka uvāca, jita-sano, jita-śvāso, jita-saṅgo, jitendriyaḥ, sthūle bhagavato rūpe, manaḥ sandhārayed, jita-śvāso, rūpe, śrī-śuka uvāca. Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, jita-saṅgaḥ, control sitting posture. Jita-śvāsaḥ, control breathing process. Jita-saṅgaḥ, gross matter. Control association. Jitendriyaḥ, controlled senses. Sthūle, in the gross matter. Bhagavatāḥ, unto the personality of Godhead. Rūpe, in a feature of. Manaḥ, the mind. Sandhārayed, must apply. Dhiyā, by intelligence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Śukadeva Gosvāmī answered, one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by the yogic prāṇāyāma, and thus control the mind and senses, and with intelligence, apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the virāṭ-rūpa. Purport. The materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception of self, and thus the yoga system for meditation, controlling the sitting posture and breathing process and fixing the mind upon the Supreme, is prescribed in order to mold the character of the gross materialist. Unless such materialists are able to cleanse the materially absorbed mind, it is impossible for them to concentrate upon the thoughts of transcendence. And to do so, one may fix one's mind on the gross matter or existential features of the Lord. The different parts of the gigantic form of the Lord are described in the following verses. The materialistic men are very anxious to have some mystic powers as a result of such controlling process. But the real purpose of yogic regulations is to eradicate the accumulated dirty things like lust, anger, avarice, and all such materialist contaminations. If the mystic yoga is derived by the accompanying feats of mystic control, then his mission of yogic success is a failure, because the ultimate aim is God realization. He is therefore recommended to fix his gross materialistic mind by a different conception and thus realize the potency of the Lord. As soon as the potencies are understood to be instrumental manifestations of the transcendence, one automatically advances to the next step, and gradually the stage of full realization becomes possible for him. Okay. This chapter is the first chapter of the second canto. It's called the first step to God realization. And in this verse, Srila Śukadeva Gosvāmī instructs Maharaj Parikshit and the sages about the process of yoga to control the mind and purify it through meditating on the virāṭ-rūpa, or the universal form of the Lord. This is done by controlling one's breath through prāṇāyāma, proper sitting postures, and focusing the mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the yogis, it's mostly done by meditating on the virāṭ-rūpa, the external, gross manifestation of the Lord. But it may seem that it's very hard to do the process, especially now in the age of Kali, when we are not able to sit in one place for around 10 minutes and listen to something, pay full attention. So how is it possible for us to sit in one place and meditate on the Supreme Lord for thousands of years? It's practically impossible. Even Arjuna, 5,000 years ago, denied this process. He was saying that if back then it was not possible, then how is it possible for us? Therefore, in order to apply this principle, be able to apply this system of yoga, we have to understand what is the principle behind it. What is the main idea? And the basic principle of yoga is austerity. Behind everything, there is a principle. And in order to execute it, you have to understand the principle. Like, for example, in our devotional service, in Krishna consciousness, we have two main principles. Always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. And everything is, all the rules and regulations are surrounded around this. So if that's our main purpose. If that's done, then the principle, we can actually apply it. So the principle over here of yoga is austerity. And austerity doesn't have to be just sitting in one place, controlling one's mind, and trying to focus on the Lord. For us, austerity is already like sadhana. It's very hard. It's quite an austerity to wake up in the morning, take a cold bath, come to the temple, finish your rounds. It's an austerity. But this actually develops you and purifies your mind. As Srila Prabhupada says in the Purport, that by meditating on the Lord, the mind is purified. And as long as one's mind is contaminated, we're not able to see, to perceive the transcendental features of the Lord. And therefore, by sadhana, every day practicing it as an austerity, we'll be able to purify ourselves. But what's the difference between sadhana and suffering? Suffering. The difference is the mind. Depends how you look at it. Externally, it appears very similar. One person might be doing it because he has to, and otherwise he'll be punished if he doesn't do it. Another person is doing it because he wants to do it. He understands what is the reason for that. And that's the difference between austerity and suffering. So whenever we're doing something spiritual, like sadhana, we should understand that this is an austerity, which will help you develop your Krishna consciousness and eventually lead you to understand Krishna's transcendental form. A extremely important part of sadhana is japa. Holy name is the main aspect that we're supposed to follow now. And I personally feel that my japa, that is the most important part of my day. If I have a good japa class, have finished my rounds nicely, have a nice focus, then I'm able to have everything, the whole day goes very nicely. Doesn't matter if it's spiritual activities or material activities, it becomes so much better. And on the other hand, when you have bad japa, where you're not able to finish your rounds, or you're very sleepy, then most of the time the day doesn't go so good. I had a very good experience with this when I was filming the cooking course. Every time I had a good japa class, I was able to properly focus, have everything done in one shot, and it was amazing. But on those days when I was a little tired or wasn't focused enough, I wasn't able to have a proper japa class, and therefore the whole day wasn't so good. Everything that I was doing had a lot of problems, and it wasn't as easy to do. We talked about the austerity and the meditation on the Lord. But why does Śukadeva Gosvāmī explain that we should meditate upon the virāṭ-rūpa, the external energy of the Lord, the gross manifestation? In the next purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the virāṭ-rūpa is actually a blessing of the Lord, because for asuras especially, because they're able to see, they're able to perceive His greatness, His power, His size, and everything. He's the size of a universe, and even bigger. And different people on different levels of consciousness can appreciate different things, because they're able to see different things. Like, for example, a cockroach. You can only see 2 dimensions. For him, everything is flat. So he cannot see beyond the dimensions. For us as humans, we can see 3 dimensions. So we can see that, and so the cockroach cannot understand the way we understand things. In a similar way, we cannot understand transcendental things unless we get purified. So virāṭ-rūpa is the gross manifestation of the Lord. So we're able to connect to it, especially for those people who are just beginners. They are like scientists. Most of them don't accept God. So they're able to look at the nature, look at the way how things are functioning, and that will be able to lead them to God realization. If you study science or anything, just absorb in nature, you'll be able to see how wonderful everything is, how much harmony is there, how much symmetry in nature it is. And therefore, if you think about it logically, you will definitely conclude that there has to be some consciousness behind this. And just by appreciating this, how gorgeous everything looks, and how nicely everything functions, we appreciate the Lord's potencies, Krishna's energies, and in that way, we get purified. As I mentioned about the asuras, Prabhupada was saying that it's a blessing, the virāṭ-rūpa is a blessing for the asuras, because asuras are only functioning on the lower level. They can only appreciate strength, power, and like physical things. And therefore, by seeing the virāṭ-rūpa, they're able to connect to the Lord. Because as I said before, different people can connect differently. Some people appreciate knowledge, some people appreciate renunciation, but from asuras, they are not on that level yet, so they cannot appreciate such things. And therefore, it's a blessing for asuras. And different people like Shaktas, nature worshippers, they're all worshipping the Lord in different ways. Because Krishna's energy is Krishna. Shakti mati yorabir. The source of the energy and her energy is the same. There's no difference within them. And so by worshipping the energy of the Lord and appreciating the different qualities of the Lord, our mind and heart slowly gets purified. And eventually we will be able to come to the stage where we can realize the Lord and see His transcendental form. At the end of the next purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that this virāṭ-rūpa is a manifestation of Krishna's merciful nature, that it's his mercy for the asuras, for atheists in a way that you can challenge an atheist or someone who says that he is to be God, that someone claims to be God. There are many Sai Babas and other Bishkishans, people saying that every now and then come and say that there's God, that they are God. But Srila Prabhupada says that you can ask them to show the virāṭ-rūpa, to prove that are they God or not. And unless they show their virāṭ-rūpa, then goodbye. So as I mentioned before, this virāṭ-rūpa is the mercy of the Lord. You're able to, he basically gives everyone a chance to come to understand him. For every single person, every single being in the planet, he gives opportunity how to purify themselves and come to the stage of purification, where he's able to perceive the transcendental form of the Lord. And this led me to one realization, one point, that whatever happens to you is always for your best. Many times we have problems, sometimes good things happen, bad things happen, but it's quite hard to see that everything in connection to Krishna. That whenever something happens, like nice karma, you get karma, so you can understand and realize that this is bad and I shouldn't do it. And for devotees, most of the time, the karma gets neutralized because they perform devotional service and they start understanding that what they were doing before is wrong and they won't do it again. And therefore, most of the karma is taken away. But still, bad things happen to devotees. It's quite obvious. So you have to understand that it's Krishna's energy. And it's always His mercy, because He has a plan. maybe for us it may seem that something is good or bad. For him, he is just trying to bring us to devotional service, to realize who he is. And that way, yeah, come to him. Many times you hear this, but it's always hard to understand, like, it's actually true. Like, is everything that happens to me, like all the bad things, like I get fired from a job, or like I broke my leg or something, is actually good for me? And personally, I heard it so many times and just couldn't understand, like, is it actually true? Like, I don't believe it. But then just a few years ago, like around 3-4 years ago, I got a deep realization, which then really helped me understand this, and it helped me throughout my whole life since then. Just making a long story short, we were taking care of this puja, our big boys, in the Gurukul. And when we take care of this puja, we take care of the whole program, decorations, the glorifications, the schedule, and everything. So since we're doing it, we wanted to do it the best way possible. So it's nice, looks good, and it's a good program. But yeah, we had a plan for decorations, but the problem was that the budget wasn't big enough. And we already attached the way how we wanted to do things, and we didn't want to give up our plan. So I had an idea. It wasn't very smart, but yeah. I kind of took Lakshmi from another account without letting people know about it. And I was confident that it would be okay, because I knew what I was doing. And yeah, everything went very nicely. I took the extra Lakshmi, we made very nice decorations, and everything went very nicely. The program was nice, full of decorations. Then, yeah, Maharaj was pleased, everyone was happy. Then the puja passed, we had a nice feast. So I thought, yeah, everything is good, no one figured anything out, I'm safe. Then we had holidays, Gaurpurniyam, Parikram, like 3 months passed, and I fully forgot about this. Like, everything is good, no problems. And then, like 3 months later, somehow, by Krishna's mercy, of course, teachers figured out about it. And as soon as I came to the room, when Mashai called me, I came and I saw his face. I knew what it was about. I knew that I messed up big. And yeah, there's nothing I could do about it now. So yeah, I had like half an hour of heavy sauce. Yeah, I got a nice boka, you can say. Boka means chastisement. And yeah, I felt like very guilty, like my chest was, I felt the guilt in my chest. Like I didn't know like what I should do. I kind of just wanted to disappear. But that wasn't it. Then in the evening, when I was doing Maharaj massage, it was like 10 times worse. Yeah, Maharaj wasn't getting in my case really. He was more like explaining what I did wrong. And the most important, like the thing which really touched me was the part where he said that I lost the trust of the teachers. And that was, I think, the most painful thing for me. That when I lost something which I was very much, it was very precious for me. The trust the teachers had and other people into me. So for me that was very painful. And yeah, I was very shocked. I didn't know what to do. I was so confused. So at the end of the massage, Maharaj told me, now you're a big boy. If you want to get your trust back, you messed up. You used Lakshmi for something else. So figure out how to bring it back to school. The money which you overused, misspent, make sure it comes back to school. I walked out of the room, sat on the bench, did like this, touched my head, and I was so confused. I was hoping this was a dream. I was trying to pinch myself, but I wasn't waking up. So yeah, then I was just contemplating, like, Krishna, I was trying to do everything the best way possible for you. Like, I was trying to please the devotees, have a nice program, but still, like, why is this happening to me? I just couldn't understand, like, what's the problem? Then I just, thought about it for a few hours, and then I understood that, I'm in this position, nothing else I can do about it now, just, I'm a man, I should take up this challenge, I made a mistake, I should correct it. I had a few options. I could either go back for the money, which I felt not so manly, you can say, because I made a mistake. I should pay for it. I shouldn't ask someone to correct my mistake. So I decided to figure out and make Lakshmi myself. Yeah, I could either work as a labor for a few days and hours to get Lakshmi, or I could have made something, sold it, and got the Lakshmi. So that was my idea. I decided to kind of try some business. The tomatoes were in season, so I bought a lot of tomatoes, made sauce, packed them up, designed the label, everything. Was marketing it, put it in the shops, and got it. So after like a month or so, I was able to get Lakshmi back. And actually I was very happy to get the experience. Because, yeah, I always wanted to have some kind of business experience since I was small. It was always something I wanted to try out. And by Krishna's mercy, Krishna arranged everything that I got this opportunity, and it was very nice. I appreciate it, and I think it was very good. But actually, something which shocked me even more, something more I realized that Krishna helped me even more, is that when I was doing all this, like making tomato puree and this kind of stuff, I had more time to listen to different lectures, different sannyasis, different maharajas, different gurus. And at that time, because I was listening to so many lectures, I was able to actually find my spiritual master. I was able to find someone whom I can connect the most. And yeah, therefore I'm very grateful for what happened. Because if I wouldn't make a mistake, I wouldn't have that business experience, nor would I be able to have so much time to listen to the lectures and find a person who I can connect to. And therefore I feel very grateful to Krishna for all this. And yeah, since then, everything, whatever happens to me, I feel that it's Krishna's mercy. No matter how horrible it is, how horrible it may seem, how hard it may be for me to execute it, I understand that's Krishna's mercy. I know it's His plan, that He has some way for me to learn something. And yeah, since then, everything became much easier for me. So this kind of realizations is what really kind of gives you faith. It gives you understanding that Krishna is actually there. And you're able to connect. And that's what actually kind of keeps you going. Because they have sadhana, japa, and everything. You just go through the process every single day. But unless you get those realizations, you're not able to kind of keep going. You don't understand what's the point of it. Everything becomes so mechanical. So realizations is what actually deepens your faith. And faith is the whole process of devotional service. From Shraddha to Prema, everything is just different levels of faith. Shraddha is just the first level of faith. And Prema is the topmost faith, that you have full conviction that Krishna is the supreme, and you don't want to do anything else other than worship Him. And yeah, and realizations like this, they don't come just by themselves. You have to contemplate and think in order to get them. And the process is quite simple. It consists of three things: Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Shravanam means hearing. Yeah, the first thing is most important. Make sure you listen, pay full attention to what is being said. And when you have full attention, when you took the information properly, when you understand it fully, then you can start applying the second process. It's called mananam. It's called contemplation. That's actually the most important part. How to apply what you have learned. Because most of us come from Bhagavatam class every day, understand philosophy, read Bhagavatam, Gita, but unless we apply it, there's no point. Without application, the philosophy is kind of useless. Gyan by itself is just gyan. You can just repeat things like a parrot, but unless you get vigyan, realization, there's no point of it. You don't get any realization. So, manana, that's probably the most important part of how to apply the knowledge that you have gained into your personal life. Because you understand that most of the people nowadays, most devotees, as I understand, that they have the spiritual life and the material life. They come to a temple, they finish their rounds, they're for Guru Puja, Darshanarati, Bhagavatam class, they do their reading every day. But then when they go for the job, they kind of maybe not forget about Krishna, but they don't think about him so much. And of course it's natural, because you cannot think about Krishna all the time. But we should not be able to not forget about him. We should try to understand that what we do is in connection to our devotional service. That we should be able to, that doing all the jobs and everything, studying, anything, is all in connection to Krishna. And it's helping you out to develop your understanding and purify yourself through devotional service. So Mananam is the point, is that aspect when you contemplate of how this philosophy practically applies in your day-to-day life. How is it, what difference is it going to make? And many times it's very hard to actually understand it, because we always hear philosophy, but no one really explains how to apply it most of the times. It's like going to a culinary school for years. Every single day you come and just learn different theory, like this flavors go nice to this flavor, then this kind of dough you bake under this temperature and that temperature, and different things. But no one actually gives you practical recipes. They just give you theory and principles. But unless you understand how to actually apply it, there's no point. So therefore, it's extremely important to understand how to apply it. And that comes from manam, contemplation. Many times we are not able to understand how to do it ourselves. So we can come to some senior devotees, your Guru Maharaj, or his senior disciples, and ask, I have this point, I heard this from Bhagavatam class, and can you please explain me, how is it connected to my life? How can I use it to improve my spiritual life and devotional service? And when you understand that, you can start applying. And through application of the philosophy, you'll be able to get realizations. And those realizations will deepen your faith and help you progress in your devotional service. Yeah, those are realizations is the most important part. Because without those, the whole practice of devotional service is kind of, it's very dry. There's no relationship with the Lord. It's just, you follow through the process mechanically, and nothing happens. So only when you get those realizations, which actually help you understand different things, how philosophy actually is practical, not just theoretical, how it's practical, how you can apply it in our contemporary world. I remember Bhakti Pur Maharaj was saying that philosophy, when someone's giving philosophy class, he should make sure that he gives examples and explanations that are contemporary to the present age. Not modern, contemporary. Because modern means like modern culture. It's like opposite to Vedic culture. So you should be able to understand how to connect the philosophy in the nowadays world. Because many people, like Krishna West and so on, they say that all this Vedic culture and everything is just something old-fashioned. It's not for us. But we should be able to understand how we are able to apply this in our personal lives. How this explanation of dhyana yoga, as Śukadeva Gosvāmī explains it, through sitting posture, prāṇāyāma, and meditating on the virāṭ-rūpa of the Lord, is able to connect to us, and how we can use it in our personal devotional service. How it help our lives to connect to Krishna and understand like what is actually useful from it. Another thing about the virāṭ-rūpa, I remember Jadvaita Maharaj was saying that virāṭ-rūpa is actually manifestation of the nature. It's very nice. It explains the whole universe is the form of virāṭ-rūpa. Is that he explains that the feet of virāṭ-rūpa are the lower planetary planets, lower planets. Then the waist is the middle planets, and the head of virāṭ-rūpa is the higher planetary systems. Then the mountains in this universe are like the bones of virāṭ-rūpa. Then the rivers like the veins, and clouds are like hair of virāṭ-rūpa. This looks a little metaphorical, but it's easy for us to understand. It's because everything looks, the whole universe looks so gorgeous. It looks very nice. So by understanding and appreciating the nature and how everything works nicely in a harmony, then we'll be able to understand, then we perform devotional service. So when you preach, you can start with those. When someone doesn't really understand Krishna, like Prabhupada says here, that as long as one's mind is materially conditioned, he won't be able to perceive the transcendental form of the Lord. So you start as a first step by showing him the Krishna's energy, Krishna's virāṭ-rūpa, nature, and different things. And that way, by worshipping his energies, and even like demigods and different things, when someone follows Shastra as it is, like worshipping demigods, even worshipping nature, we get closer to Krishna because we worship Krishna's energy. And by doing so, we'll be able to purify ourselves and connect to him. Any questions, comments? Yes?
Thank you for the class. You said a very important point, that trust among devotees, it is very necessary. So in your case, you said that you have committed a mistake and that has made you lose the trust of your devotees. So in some cases, like many times I've experienced, like sometimes you are not capable of doing some task like your seniors or something. That is also when you lose the trust of your seniors, that this person cannot do this. So at this situation, what you can do? Like, can you give some advice?
Means many times when you do something and then you try to do it, but you fail because you're not qualified enough for it. You just keep trying. Many people, like, there are many, I know quite a few musicians and just different people, they tried so many times to become good, but they always rejected so many times. And you just keep trying. Just you do your best to inquire from your spiritual master, from different Vaishnavas, how you can improve in that. And just by having a fixed goal, having a clear idea of where you want to be, and that's making that important for you, you just keep going. You just have a determination, and you just keep grinding, you can say. That's my personal understanding of it. You just have to have an idea, understand how is it important for you, what is it going to bring to you, and you just keep going. Because you understand that it's for Krishna, and that's important for you. Anybody else?
First of all, Prabhuji, you are most fortunate that you have such a wonderful association of devotees, and even more commendable is you are actually holding it with both hands and trying so hard. I also wanted to commend you that you're able to take responsibility for your actions and then act according to that.
Mm-hmm.
I have been brought up in a very technical background, so pardon me, but this is something that came to my mind. It is related to this verse today.
Sure.
In this verse, there is jita-saṅgo, which means controlled association.
Yes.
But in the translation, neither in the purport, I noticed anywhere any talk about association. Can you, does that mean that part is implicit in something else, or I'm not able to understand, so if you could just throw some light on it, that would be great.
Yeah, I also couldn't see it. When I first time read the verse, I also couldn't find it and just couldn't see the connection. But if you keep thinking about it, you'll be able to understand that there is actually a connection between this and association. Because unless you have association, you won't be able to meditate, you won't be able to do the process. You have to have association of some Vaishnavas, of someone who is going to guide you and teach you in this. And control association means you have the proper Vaishnava association. The Vaishnava association will develop in you the proper qualification to do so. And yeah, association is an extremely important part in anything you do. Yeah, it says that if you want to know who you're going to be, see the 6 people who you associate with the most. And then when you see the qualities in those people, you figure out who you're going to become. So association is the most important. It, as Prabhupada says, that it molds your personality, you can say. So yeah, that's my understanding.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. I have 2 questions. The first one is that the virāṭ form, the sthūle bhagavato rūpe, dhiyā, the yogis meditate on the virāṭ form of the Lord. And the devotees, the bhakti yogis, they serve to the deity form of the Lord. So what is the difference between the virāṭ-rūpa and the deity form? And the second question is that related with the karma and his action reactions. So if somebody does karma, good action or bad action, he does get the good result or the bad result of his actions.
Yes.
And if the Lord is independent, then why one should be approaching to the Lord?
Means, can you say again about the karma?
If the Lord is independent,
yes,
he does not interfere in anybody's actions and reactions, then why one should be approaching to the Lord? If everything depends on your action,
yes,
a good or bad result, then what is the Lord's position? Yes.
Okay, I'll start with the second question. Means devotional service is a karma. It's not good or bad actions. So if you just stay in this material world, the cycle of birth and death, you perform good activities, bad activities. It's a cycle. You can never stop it. And if you want to stay in the material world and you enjoy it, then there's no point of worshiping Krishna. There's no need. Only if you actually understand that this is the place where you don't want to be, and understand that you have to, there's something above, there's something transcendental to this, where there's real happiness. Because as long as you're here, you get just a little bit of happiness. It's just some enjoyment here and there, but it's mostly suffering. So when you understand that, you start performing a karma, devotional service. And that's when the Lord comes in. All the activities that are connected to the Lord, they are not good or bad activities. They are a karma. It doesn't give any reactions. And yeah, that's the main thing, that you perform devotional service. And that way, you get rid of all the karma. And when you're fully purified, you're able to come to the transcendental stage. Is that okay for the second question? And for the first one, can you say again, please? Virāṭ. Oh, yeah. Virāṭ-rūpa is, as explained by Srila Prabhupada, is the universal form. It's not exactly, for different people, Krishna showed it a little differently. To Duryodhana, he showed one universal form. To Yashoda, he showed a different form. To Arjuna, he showed another different form. So virāṭ-rūpa is, they can say, in a way, it's imaginary. I remember Jalita Maharaj was saying that, yeah, it's kind of imaginary. It's there, but you can visualize it. You cannot really see that, like the bones actually are the mountains and the rivers are the veins. It's not exactly how we physically perceive it. But it's like that because Shastra says, and we understand. And deity form is transcendental. When you install a deity in the you can say statue, then the Lord is there. When you start worshiping it with devotion, the Lord is personally there. He's present. And it's transcendental. So you cannot compare them. One is a gross manifestation because it's just physical activities, physical things that are indirectly connected to Krishna because it's his creation. But the Archavigraha, the form of the Lord that we worship in the temple, is actually Lord himself. And when you worship him nicely, he he reciprocates like a person. And there are so many, when you listen to Jnana, he has so many realizations of how Krishna is actually there. Like he is personally present. So you can't really compare them. They're different. One is...
If the virāṭ-rūpa is imaginary form, then in descriptions we have heard rivers as his veins, mountains as his bones.
Yes.
So mountains you can see.
Yes.
Rivers you can see. So how you
it's there, this? But it's not. We cannot perceive it in a way like the human body. Means we look at it as we can see it. It helps us understand the virāṭ-rūpa, but it's not exactly the same way as we are structured. So it is the energy of the Lord, definitely. But Krishna has different energies. He has the internal potency and external potency. So that's the difference. That the Archa-vigraha, the form of the Lord in the deity, he is fully transcendental. But the universe, it's his gross energy. It's not fully spiritual. And therefore it's easier for materialists to understand. They start from that stage.
Here it mentions sthūle bhagavato rūpe. There's a rūpa, he's having a person, and a sthūla, it's visible.
Yes, it's visible, it's there. Just, it's a gross manifestation. They're different. The Archa-vigraha is transcendental. It's Krishna himself. And that is just an energy, manifestation of the Lord as a blessing for asuras to understand Krishna's greatness. That is the main difference.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your lecture.
Welcome.
It's on? Yeah. I just have one question. You mentioned something that very interesting. Thank you. That whatever we do, it's Krishna's mercy, even mistakes. And I remember a quote of Prabhupada. He said to someone that whatever a result is like bad, it's our fault, and whatever result is good, it's Krishna's mercy. And my question is, how do we know that when something like bad or like a mistake we do, it's actually Krishna's arrangement, or it's actually my modes of nature which are just my fault? I know like whatever we do is always Krishna's mercy is applied there, and we can always use it to benefit. But how do I know that my action is actually controlled by Krishna, or is it just my mind or my ego or like that?
Means when we are the soul, we are fully pure by nature, Satchidananda. We are fully pure and eternal, but we have some conditioning that makes us act in our different ways because of our karma, because of our false ego, our conditioning, and different things. So even if we do something bad, it's probably because of our conditioning, but Krishna does it in such a way, he tries to, he has a plan to make you purify from the action. Like the whole point of karma, that you do something bad, but the reaction is there to remind you, to explain you, that to help you out to understand that this is wrong. So all the bad things you do is because of your conditioning. It's not that Krishna wants you to do something bad. It's just Krishna helps you understand good things through the conditioning. Is that clear?
Thank you very much for sharing your realization, especially about seeing it as Krishna's mercy. Are you really sure, even in difficult times, you see it as Krishna's mercy? That's a very high realization. Personally, I find it that those are the moments for us to develop one of those 26 qualities.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It always strikes me that in this age we are so fallen but when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, whether it's like a little small book or Bhagavatam, or Srila Prabhupada always gives, he starts from the highest point, as if it comes from the highest point down. Like we, instead of getting that yoga process, we get the full scope. Everything is there, and we are distributing these books to the most fallen, I mean, including myself, of course. So, how to understand this, that we are getting the highest understanding in Srila Prabhupada's books, and sometimes we hear, oh, we have to preach very moderately, try to prepare people to understand it, but then I read Prabhupada's books and I think, no, Srila Prabhupada gives everything in one shot, from the smallest book.
Yeah.
So, can you comment on that, please?
Yes, I heard so many times, and actually personally realized it, that when Prabhupada's books are for everybody, for beginners, from intermediate, and for advanced. You just see the points that are relative for you, that those things that you connect to, the most important parts which actually you need for developing your Krishna consciousness. So if you're a beginner, you'll see things one way. You're intermediate, you'll see things differently. And when you're advanced, like you, you'll be able to see very elevated things. Krishna's books, Prabhupada's books have everything. You don't need to read any other acharyas or anything. If you want to read other acharyas, they're there to only enhance and help you understand Prabhupada's books. But Prabhupada's books are complete by themselves. Each and every book has everything you need to understand and come to full realization of Krishna. So that's the way how I see it. Yes. Yes. That, yeah, it's like a medicine for everybody. It gives you the right dose of what you need. That's what it is. It's amazing mercy of Prabhupada. Yeah, it's just, Prabhupada's books are something amazing that you can actually not understand how they're this way. Welcome. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna. So again, I have some questions on virāṭ-rūpa. Like we say generally that virāṭ-rūpa is imaginary, but when it comes to the process of creation, so virāṭ-rūpa comes even before the manifestation of demigods and other things come in the universe. So in that sense, how do we understand that it is like imaginary?
It's not exactly imaginary. It says in Purusha Sukta, I think in verse 5, that first the Purusha is created, and then from the Purusha, from the Mahapurusha, the virāṭ-rūpa comes. He is a manifestation of the real Purusha, of the big Purusha. So he is there as a person. He's a personality. But it's a gross manifestation, so it's not, it's his, external potency. So it's imaginary for us because we cannot perceive him the way, like a human body or any other way. But he's a person. He's there.
And also in the word, when we say gross, is it like for perception? Because we find deities are more visible than to have the conception of Virat Purusha. So when we say the word gross, it is in our terms, or what is the exact meaning of that gross? Word gross?
Gross means it's material. It's not transcendental yet. It's physical. It's temporary, basically. Yeah, the best word to use is temporary. Because the virāṭ-rūpa it appears in the beginning of creation, and then at the end of creation, it's not there. So the virāṭ-rūpa, it just comes, it's there and not there. So it's temporary. That's the way I understand it.
Thank you.
Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki